boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. This past weekend, Bomi Ray Shin acquired the WBA Asia Female Lightweight title against the tough Tawarna Campbell by majority decision. Shin moved her division from super feather up to lightweight for her next target of world title. She had already fought at lightweight earlier this year against Caroline Dubois for what was Caroline's WBC title. She lost a decision, though not before giving Caroline Dubois a hard time. Now, it would seem she's shifted her focus over to fighting for the WBA title that Stephanie Han currently holds. Stephanie Han of the United States, promoted by MVP, noticeably less experienced than Bomi Ray Shin. Bomi Ray Shin sports a professional record of 18 wins with 3 losses and 3 draws, 10 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 24 professional bouts. Noticeably more bouts, more rounds in the bank than the reigning champion, Stephanie Han. Yeah, Stephanie only has 11 professional bouts, so it would seem that after this weekend's fight, Bomi Ray Shin was able to cap off this year in the winner's bracket, ended on a high, in a prime position to do bigger things in the coming calendar year, namely, fight for the WBA title. Bomi Ray Shin is a characteristic pressure fighter. She's basically a South Korean version of Delphine Persoon. How to best describe her? Persistent, aggressive, durable, not big on form, but big on ferocity. Defense is lacking, like what you see with most pressure fighters, but what she lacks in defense, she makes up for in durability and persistence, and she could very well be a handful for either Stephanie Han or Holly Holm. I believe that behind the scenes, there is an active effort by MVP to put Hall of Fame fighter Holly Holm in the ring with Stephanie Han. And if they do it, I believe that Holly Holm will win the fight and take the WBA title from Stephanie Han. So it's really just a question of who has to deal with Bomi Ray Shin when the time comes. Will it be Stephanie, who has the title now, or will it be Holly, who may take it from her? Either way, Bomi Ray Shin is a problem that is developing in the background of what is to be their fight. Procuring a WBA Asia title, essentially a regional title that will move her up the ranks momentarily. She's not mandatory yet. I think she's still 1 or 2 fights out from becoming the mandatory challenger to the champion, but she's getting close. She's getting there. For now, congratulations to her. I believed that she would beat Campbell, and she did, and she's on her way. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, the developing story at the forefront of all boxing news right now, it would seem that Gervonta Davis is completely out of the Jake Paul hybrid pro fight later on this month. An official statement from MVP was released saying, "Most valuable promotions immediately initiated an investigation upon learning of the civil suit filed against Gervonta Davis in Miami-Dade County on October 30th, 2025. At this time, we are gathering information and reviewing the details to ensure any decision we make is thoroughly vetted. We unequivocally condemn any form of violence and are committed to handling this matter with diligence and respect for all involved. We will make a determination on the next steps once we have completed our review and consulted with the appropriate parties. Until then, we will not be commenting any further." Any decision they make. It seems they've already made the decision to move on from Gervonta Davis and find someone else for Jake Paul to fight in either what remains of this month or the next one. Quested himself a bag, doing what he always does, putting his hands on females. He's got a long history of doing that. It's a big part of the reason Gervonta Davis never fully went mainstream. He's just not marketable enough to go mainstream, and his box office numbers by themselves, they don't tell the story of a fighter who's crossed over. You know, Sugar Ray Leonard crossed over. Oscar De La Hoya crossed over. With Gervonta Davis, in spite of a cult following that seems to exist mostly online, boxing chat rooms and boxing circles, in the real world, he's not a mainstream attraction. Stuff like this is why. He doesn't have a charismatic persona like a Tyson Fury. He's not well-versed or well-spoken either. He can barely get a cohesive sentence out. Certainly isn't media trained. So just some of the ingredients you need to have crossover appeal, to cross over into the mainstream. And it really doesn't help his case that he's constantly getting in trouble for the same thing. domestic abuse. Major brands and major companies are not going to want nothing to do with you. So you can forget about being a spokesperson or a brand ambassador for somebody, that arm of revenue. That's millions and millions of dollars you don't get to make, you don't get to pocket because you're always slapping up women, or at least being accused of slapping up women. I mean, even when it's alleged, it's something that major brands and companies do not want to be associated with. Netflix is supposed to be promoting a fight between a social media influencer and a domestic abuser, a serial domestic abuser. By now, it's patterned behavior. Costed himself a lot of money. What some would argue was his retirement check. Having not fought the vast majority of his contemporaries, what would have been the biggest fights of his career, it seemed like he momentarily found a shortcut to the bag, to the big money. That's what the Jake Paul fight was, if you even want to call that a fight, a shortcut to the money that didn't require him to risk anything like all those other fights would, and somehow he still found a way to fuck that up. Because he's a fuck-up. He started off this year saying that he wanted this to be his last year in the sport of boxing, and after this, he wanted to retire. And most people, myself included, expected him to retire on the money he made fighting Jake. But now that he isn't fighting Jake, is he gonna retire? Can he? Has he made enough that he could still bow out at the end of the year? I don't think so. The vast majority of Gervonta Davis's pay-per-views hover at around 200,000, just north or just south. Doesn't really sell that much. And the money that he made with Ryan, what was that, 2 years ago? How do we know he hasn't burned through most of it? Spending it on Ugg boots and jeggings and leg warmers. So money management is a skill that most professional athletes don't have, boxers included. Most people. It's not uncommon for professional fighters to live beyond their means based on the money they're making at the time, but once they stop making that money, you know how it goes. He fucked up. Fucked up is what he did. He costed himself a lot of money, and I don't know that same opportunity is going to come back around for Gervonta Davis. Depending on how this civil suit goes, the optics are really bad in a big company like Netflix. Promoting anything involving Gervonta Davis would essentially be promoting domestic violence, domestic abuse. Domestic violence. Guy's just fucking stupid, man. Just fucking stupid, like I said. Because he never actually crossed over into the mainstream, making mainstream money, there's a question as to whether or not Gervonta Davis can retire off of what money he's made so far, or will he have to fight on beyond this calendar year based on what he costed himself? Stupid. So the story now is that they are indefinitely moving on from Gervonta Davis, and it's just the question of who will Jake Paul end up fighting. Loose reports that anyone from Francis Ngannou to Terence Crawford to Ryan Garcia have been made offers to stand in. Fucking disappointment. You know, they already spent money promoting what was supposed to be the Gervonta Davis fight. Of the aforementioned names, I feel like Ryan Garcia would have been the best fit for a Jake Paul exhibition event because Ryan Garcia really is more social media influencer than boxer, than pugilist. He's always had his foot more in that door, in that direction than the other. I really do feel like he would have been the ideal choice for Jake Paul and the audience that he caters to, because it's not your conventional boxing fan, your traditional boxing fan that takes in a Jake Paul event. That's mostly kids, spend all day on TikTok, all day on Instagram, all day on social media. Ryan would have been ideal had Oscar De La Hoya not taken him out of the running. There's a legitimate argument that Jake Paul versus Ryan Garcia might have actually been bigger than Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. You saw Gervonta Davis at what press conferences they did. He was doing absolutely nothing to sell that fight with Jake. No effort, no nothing. He's not well spoken, so you won't get any banter, witty banter from him. Ryan is a bit easier to digest for some. You know, some people go for Ryan Garcia's shtick, his personality. He does have a following after all. That he might have done more to sell the fight with Jake than Gervonta was doing to sell the fight with Jake. Ryan probably would have made those press conferences a bit more interesting and brought in that younger audience that follows him on his social media. The tickets weren't selling all that good for Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, which we talked about just the other day. Well, when your core customers, when your core supporters are more likely to steal a fight than buy one, are they customers? Do you think that the people online that support Gervonta Davis actually buy all of those bullshit pay-per-views? I can tell you that they don't. Think these are the kind of people that pay for a ticket to be there, show up to be at a fight?
Nope.
I wasn't surprised when I saw reports that the tickets were not selling, that there were still lots and lots of seats remaining for what's supposed to be one of the biggest fights of the year. Really didn't look like it. Now, some might argue that Ryan Garcia's stock had taken a hit after the loss to Gervonta and the more recent loss to Rolly Romero, taking a hit with boxing fans.
Yeah, with conventional boxing fans, but not everybody that supports Ryan is a conventional boxing fan. I reiterate, he's got social media appeal, which is a different demographic entirely, and that demographic likely would have been excited.
One social media influencer versus another. That would have given a Jake Paul exhibition, event, whatever it is, a synergy all its own.
Listen, it doesn't fucking matter. It's not gonna be Ryan. Oscar De La Hoya killed that noise.
So I wake up to calls from reporters asking me about Jake Paul and Ryan Garcia. Let me just tell you why this fight is not gonna happen. Ryan Garcia fights for DAZN, and Jake Paul fights on Netflix. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line. Golden Boy has a contract with DAZN. Ryan Garcia has a contract with Golden Boy. And that's just the way it is. I mean, this is business. You know, Ryan Garcia's probably going to go on a rant saying, oh, you're keeping me from making money and this and that and fighting. No. You have to go by the law, by the rules. You have a contract with DAZN. You have a contract with Golden Boy. Just doesn't happen that way. So anyway, until next time, we'll see you Saturday for Virgil Ortiz. But again, Ryan Garcia's next fight will be announced by me, who he's fighting, and when he's fighting next. See you guys.
Now, you may be thinking to yourself, can't they work it out? I mean, when Ryan Garcia fought Gervonta Davis, at that time DAZN and Showtime shared the pay-per-view. Could they not share the Jake Paul fight?
Remember, DAZN and Showtime shared distribution of the pay-per-view and sold it on both platforms. Could they not do that with Netflix?
I don't think Netflix is paying what they're paying to share an event with DAZN, and I think that's what it boils down to, that Netflix wouldn't want to share anything with DAZN, who Ryan is exclusively contracted to. Netflix would likely want it all for themselves. That's why they're paying what they're paying. So anything involving Ryan that doesn't involve DAZN is a no-go.
It's not gonna happen. Jake Paul is not in Ryan Garcia's future. But you know who is? Mario Barrios.
Per veteran boxing scribe Dan Rafael, sources confirming Ring Magazine report Golden Boy Promotions and PBC are close to a deal for Ryan Garcia to challenge Mario Barrios for the WBC 140-pound title first quarter of 2026 in Vegas. I'm told WBC needs to approve and would be joint DAZN Prime Video pay-per-view. Fight's been in talks the past couple of weeks. Contingent upon the World Boxing Council's approval, and I think they will approve of it because they have very low standards.
Can it even be argued that Ryan Garcia deserves another shot at another title when he's coming off a loss to Rolando Romero?
No, it can't, but I don't think that's going to stop the World Boxing Council. In their eyes, Garcia versus Barrios might be a moneymaker, and on that predication, they're on board. I think they will be. I think they're going to approve it. Mario Barrios is a welterweight champion, is tantamount to a paperweight, a placeholder for the World Boxing Council until such a time as a more popular fighter can come along and they can put that belt in his hands.
It's the same with Rolly on the WBA.
Remember, when Ryan and Rolly were fighting for a version of a WBA title, the regular version, Ryan was coming off a doping violation, a doping suspension, and the WBA didn't have no problem letting him fight for a version of their title. I'd wager it's the same with the WBC. Even though Ryan's coming off a loss, they don't care.
They're gonna stand on ceremony of principle.
If what they figure is they make more money from Ryan holding that belt than Mario holding that belt, they're gonna approve it. Unbeaten up-and-comer of France, Souleymane Sissoko, who's currently ranked in the top 5 of the World Boxing Council, took to his social media to complain that first, Manny Pacquiao skipped ahead of him in the line to fight for the title, and now Ryan is about to do the same thing.
I don't think the WBC gives a shit about Souleymane Sissoko or what he's saying. The optics would be pretty bad if the World Boxing Council approved this.
But I expect them to. I expect that they will approve this fight and allow Ryan to fight for their version of the title. Ryan's excuse for losing to Rolly Romero was that he injured his hand at some point.
That's why he looks so different from the Devin Haney Haney fight to the Rolly fight? Because according to Ryan, he got injured.
Personally, I think it's because he wasn't able to use his Osterin in the Rolly Romero fight, since the Rolly Romero fight was not a Golden Boy promotion. It was promoted by Turkey LL Sheik, and there was stringent VADA testing.
He was already coming off of a doping violation and suspension. He was in the hot seat. Under the hot lights, he wasn't able to use his Osterin, so the same Ryan that beat the hell out of Devin was not able to beat the hell out of Rolly. That's how I quantify it, how I surmise it, though given that this would be a Golden Boy promotion / PBC show, you never know. That aggressive Ryan, that sharp Ryan, might show up.
What does Garcia versus Barrios do commercially? They want to build this as a pay-per-view. What will it bring in? I'd put the number at somewhere in between 250 to 350 pay-per-view buys.
If they're lucky.
I'd put the number somewhere in there. You've got two Mexican-American fighters of Mexican descent, and we all know that Mexican-American boxing fans move the needle in the United States. There may be a legitimate argument that Ryan Garcia's stock has taken a hit from the time that he fought Gervonta Davis, and I don't dismiss that, but Mexican-American boxing fans are not stuck on unbeaten records. They don't require a fighter that they support to still have their O intact. And that matters. What also matters is Ryan's crossover appeal.
Remember that Ryan doesn't really appeal to just your conventional boxing fan. He has support outside of the world of boxing via his social media. He is a well-known fighter. Even if you and I don't like him, there are some other people that do. And they might pay to see him fight for the WBC title. They might.
So I would put the number for the fight at somewhere in between 250,000 to 350,000 generously for the fight. And while the fight will not get Ryan Garcia the same money that he would have got boxing Jake Paul on Netflix, it will get him something, and if nothing else, a chance to fight for the WBC title. I feel like this is Ryan's best bet to become a champion at any point in his career.
With anyone at welterweight, because I don't think he beats Brian Norman. Not convinced he beats Lewis Crocker. He's already been there and done that with Rolly. Mario sucks. Gotta call a spade.
Really is just a question of who sucks more, Ryan Garcia or Mario Barrios. Mario Barrios is tantamount to a high-profile gatekeeper with a belt. His claim to fame ain't fights that he won, it's fights that he lost with Gervonta Davis, with Keith Thurman.
He just drew with a damn near 50-year-old Manny Pacquiao.
As stated, his claim to fame clearly isn't fights that he won, victories that he's amassed. Ideal candidate for Ryan Garcia to finally fight for a world title and perhaps, emphasis on perhaps, win one. Because for all of Mario Barrios' drawbacks, he still is a more dedicated professional than a Ryan Garcia. Still more on the straight and narrow than Ryan.
What if the WBC don't approve of this?
Well, on the off chance that they don't, Ryan can pivot back over to a Rolly Romero rematch. Rolly's not doing anything. He's under orders to fight Shakram Gayasov in defense of his title, but I don't expect him to. I don't expect that fight to happen. I expect him to drop the belt. It's what Ryan might do if the World Boxing Council don't let him box for their belt. All very predictable.
So we'll see what happens.